is it possible to run a 12-volt fridge off your cranking battery? Now, of course it's possible, but is it actually viable for camping and touring? Now, I've got the 45-litre King's fridge plugged into the back of the Bajeri here via a cigarette lighter. With this setup, I can easily drive around all day, keeping stuff cool, absolutely no worries. And even at night, fully charged battery, mine's 75 amp hours, will last easily the whole night, keeping everything cool. But you always have to be very careful and carry one of these with you, because if this gets discharged and you're solo, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Now you might be screaming, dude, just get a dual battery and be done with it. Well, dual battery setups, they become a little bit expensive. Are you going to get a DC-DC charger? Are you going to go an isolator system? They could potentially add up to $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 if you're not careful. But if you're like me and buy Chinese Ray-Bans, I have the solution for you. This is a 120-watt solar blanket from King's. And yes, it's King's, but it works. You also get a solar controller. Very important if you don't want to absolutely destroy your battery. Best thing about this solar blanket? Yes, it is foldable. This is 120 watts of Chinese goodness. Now, this is super easy, but I'm going to show you anyway. This is your solar controller. Plugs in to the blanket. From the solar controller, you have two alligator clips, positive and negative. Now these go right ahead onto your positive and negative terminals. And you hear the beep, you know she's working. You can see we're currently drawing 13.1 volts. And all that wonderful sun, as sporadic as it can be, powering our 45-litre fridge. Last weekend we were heading up to Ilden, we were going boating, fishing, etc. I had the fridge, I only had one battery. Now, I didn't want to have to turn on the car every day and run for half an hour to charge it. I didn't want to be running around with a multimeter every 3 hours, making sure the battery's not dead. And I didn't want to be turning this bad baby off every time I went to sleep. Now, that's a total viable option. If you do only have one battery and no way of charging it, turn it off at night. Your food won't get that hot overnight. But I didn't want to do that. So how did the setup work at Ilden? Well, pretty easily actually. I just fold it out when I get to camp, put it on the roof rack or put it on the bonnet or the windscreen, and just let it soak in the sun all day. When we went full driving or doing tracks or whatever, fold it up, put it in the car. It saves it getting mud and dirt all over it, because the minute it starts getting dirty and muddy, the ability of that 120 watt blanket to actually absorb the sunlight becomes far less. Keeping a clean solar panel is the key to all this. Being conscious of the positioning of the sun is also pretty important if you want to keep a really solid charge. So make sure you direction your car or positioning the panels where you know the sun's going to rise and set. For example, here, sun rises in the east, gets the sun in right there. I'd then put the solar panel on the windscreen, and I'd be getting a good solid charge that morning. Same thing with the night. It's setting in the west. I might either flick my car around or position the solar panel to hang off the back, just so I get that afternoon charge coming in. Throughout the day, it doesn't really matter. I tend to just leave it on the roof. It only gets equal charge from whatever direction it is, really. Now this solar controller actually allows you to actually change your discharge amperage or float voltage, which is actually really handy because some batteries allow for a higher float voltage than others. Right now my float voltage on this is set to 14.5. Yes, that's super high and I don't actually recommend it, but I was trying to maximize the amount of power I had, just because I wasn't too sure how this was going to work. But I'd say probably leave your float voltage on a recommended 13.8 volts. And you will notice here there's actually a connection where you can put in another positive and negative out. So you could run lights off here or any other accessories you want, but I'm simply just going attached to the battery and then running all my accessories from this battery. Now you may be wondering, well, what happens if there's no sun? Well, the weekend we went to Ilden, it rained 3 of the nights, it was overcast the first 3 days. We barely got any sun at all, to be honest. I still set the solar panel up and I was still getting a charge. And actually a pretty good charge, to be honest. The voltage would vary from 12.3 to 12.9 when it was raining. So that's really good. Obviously when the sun came out, this thing can shoot up to 14.5, as high as you set it really. But when it's raining, you still do get charge. And when it's overcast, you also still do get charge. Now, if you're only running one battery, I would say it's pretty important to set up your solar panel as much as possible when you are stationary, just to keep that battery at a safe voltage. You don't want it really dropping below like 12 volts. because if you get it down that far, probably below 11, it won't be able to start and you'll be stranded. And if you're solo, you're not in for a good time. Like, you always can use the solar panel to recharge your batteries, but just for the health of the battery itself, you don't want it getting much below 12. So I use 12 as my limit. If the battery voltage is going below 12, I'd just turn the fridge off. And that'll fix your issue. Now, having the fridge come out of a cigarette lighter, in my Pajero at least, does mean you have to have the keys in and the accessories switched on. This might not always be ideal. Say if you want to go to the shops and you want to lock your car, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. But there is a solution. This is a 12 volt wiring harness thing from King's. Super easy. Put it on your battery and now you've got your own cigarette lighter which will run even when the keys are not in the ignition. Now one day, yes, I'll probably fork out and get that dual battery set up. But even with the dual battery setup, you still need some way to charge the batteries. Either that's by driving the car and using the alternator, or by a solar panel. So getting a solar blanket, it's not going to become useless once you get a second battery. You'll still use that solar blanket to keep yourself charged. Because even if you do have dual battery system, that may only last you 1 to 2 days running a fridge the whole time. You still will want to use the solar panels. So I'd say, give this King solar panel blanket a try. The 120 watt model is around 150 bucks retail last time I checked. So far it's been pretty tough. I've had it sitting out in the rain all night and wake up next morning and she's still putting out volts. So no complaints really, folds up really neat, packs away easy, and it's just a really great little solar blanket. But to answer the question, can you run a fridge off a single battery? One of these boys, you sure can.